Hello, this is Jonathan Moore. This is part one of my deliverables for week two. For part one, I'll be going over one of the two tasks that I worked on for the week. My first task was to complete a basic turret controller for gangs of graffiti's in-game turrets. So this is my scene. I made a basic blue cube to represent the player and a red looking turret on a white tower. I just use some basics in-game assets to test the functionality of my scripts. So if I go to my scripts, I created three different scripts. The first one was a turret data script. This basically just has a public list of game objects which will update dynamically as the game progresses or goes on during runtime. And so this will contain all of the possible targets that it is allowed to shoot at. And we also created some field of view targeting floats, its seeing distance, and how far it can hear. These are not being used at this moment, but they will be used in future builds. I also created a turret detect player script. It basically just has a single function that when it triggers the turret's collider, when a in-game player triggers the turret's collider, it will reference the data script and the controller script, and it will basically ask if the current object that triggered the field that's for the turret, it will ask if that's a target that it can attack, and if it's true, it will then tell the turret controller script to target that object, and it will change its current state from idle to active, which essentially is just it will pursue to try to shoot that target. And the last script within part one is a basic controller. There's a bit of lot of script here, but essentially I used a rigid body method to move my turret left and right. We don't want it to be able to physically move up and down as it's going to be stationary. I just made a couple functions to check its current state, but it's not currently being used. We have a change state function, which will change the state based on which action it's supposed to be taking at that time. I also have a check current team. This isn't being used at this moment, but it essentially will update its team that it's being used for. As for Gangs of Graffiti, it will possibly turrets can change teams if a player tags it. So if the red team tags the turret, it will then belong to the red team, which then means its new set of targets will be every other player that's not on the red team. I have an idle function which just does nothing. I will update it to return to its normal position um, during its update um, action. I also have a do active, which essentially just tracks its current position of the target that's trying to shoot at, and then it completes its code to turn left or right. Essentially, I used an angle method that if the target that's trying to shoot at is on the left side of the turret, it will rotate left, and if it's on the right, it will rotate right. And that's basically it for deliverable ones. I will do a quick demonstration. So as I get closer, I just triggered the turret to start looking at the basic player object. It will now, at the moment, permanently start looking at the player, but I do intentionally, when I return to working on my AI for the turrets, as soon as you get far enough away, it will then go out of range, and the turret will then stop trying to shoot you and look for its current target.